I didn't ask to be born in the 20th century. I showed up here. And I encountered that in my existence in the 20th century that's been described somewhat generally or pointed to with the terms the aspirin age or the age of anxiety. We're aware of our insecurity today. To be sure, man has always been insecure. Today we're more conscious of it, thank God, than men in certain other ages have been. I think we're more conscious of it because the gods that we have relied upon to cure us and save us from our insecurity have been tried and have been found wanting. I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, but first of all, I have some very ancient poetry which some way or another seems far more up to date in these days than it did even a few years ago. Don't try to understand this poetry, I say to some of you again. Simply feel after the attitude toward life that this poetry expresses. I cry aloud to God, that he may hear me. In the day of my trouble I seek the Lord. In the night my hand is stretched out aweary. My soul refuses to be comforted. I think of God and I moan. I meditate and my spirit faints. Thou dost hold my eyelids from closing. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I consider the days of old. I remember the years long ago. I commune with my heart in the night. I meditate and search my spirit. Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has his steadfast love forever ceased? Are his promises at an end for all time? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in his anger shut up his compassion? And I say, it is my grief that the right hand of the Most High has changed. I will call to mind the deeds of the Lord. Yea, I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate on all thy work and muse on thy mighty deeds. Thy way, O God, is holy. What God is great like our God? Thou art the God who workest wonders and who has manifested thy might among the peoples. Thou didst with thy arm redeem thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. When the waters saw thee, O God, when the waters saw thee, they were afraid. Yea, the deep trembled. The clouds poured out water, and the skies gave forth thunders, and arrows flashed on every side. The crash of thy thunder was in the whirlwind. Thy lightnings lighted up the whole world. The earth shook and trembled. Thy way was through the sea, thy path through the great waters, yet thy footprints were unseen. Thou didst lead thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. When man comes upon himself, he finds himself in an uncertain existence. Human existence is uncertain. You can point to this abstractly by the way being is constantly pressing upon being. Natural being presses upon natural being. Historical being presses upon historical being. Natural being presses upon historical being, and historical being presses upon natural being. Natural being presses upon natural being. I remember a man I read who stood on the shores of Denmark and looked out in the waters, and he saw a small fish eaten by a larger fish, which was in turn eaten by a still larger, which was in turn was eaten till a still larger, and he saw this happen 5 times. And it dawned on him that last fish could not have been what it was had not 4 other fish given up their being for his sake. This is the kind of a world you and I wake up in. Natural being presses upon historical being. When I first came to Perkins, a tornado came out of the heavens and walked across to Waco, Texas. 110 or so were left in the wake. I remember when I was a small boy, yes, awful small boy, the Titanic was sunk. This is the kind of world we live in. Natural being, he is constantly pressing on historical being. And historical being is pressing upon historical being. Assyria pressed out of existence Egypt, and Assyria could not have been who she was had this not happened. And the Babylonians pressed out of existence the Assyrians, and the Medes pressed out of existence the Babylonians, and the Greeks pressed out of existence the Persians, and the Romans the Greeks. And you and I would not be who we are had our people not pressed out of existence another people. This is the kind of world we live in. As a matter of fact, for the very virtue of the fact that I was born, my mother was pressed out of being. And when I look at my 3 boys around the house, I see that they are pressing out of being their mother and my wife. How many people have been pushed upon that I might be who I am? And this is life. And historical being pushes upon natural being. Have you and I sit down to a steak, some being gave up its existence. You and I could not have been at this table and eaten this food had not some natural creature given up its existence. This is the kind of a life we live in. But when you turn this from the abstract to the concrete, you find that which really pushes us as individuals. For you and I at every point find uncertainty. We find that which pushes upon our existence, that which limits us at every turn. Time and time again we thrust out with a future only to have this hacked off. Time and time again we come upon ourselves with longings only to find these longings cut off. Time and time we reach out to know only to find a limitation upon our knowledge. Time and time again we mixed our being with work only to find this cut away. Time and time again we, like little Charlie Brown in the Peanuts comic strip, find ourselves reaching out for love and fellowship and comfort, only to find ourselves sitting on the doorstep on St. Valentine's Day from sunup to sundown, and no mailman came with a valentine. And this is life, and this limitation is striking at us at every moment. And in our insecurity, we flee. We flee to the gods. We flee to the gods, to these beings that promise us release from this insecurity. Potentially, of course, anything can be a god. It can be my mother, and I attach myself to my mother, in such a way that she becomes the meaning of my existence, and is that meaning whereby I am able to do this and that, and make this judgment and the other judgment, in which I become a self. Or I reach out, and align myself with my nation, and in this relationship, I flee from the uncertainties of life, reaching after certitude, that which promises me that which promises me security, and that which I relate myself to for security, becomes a god. I suppose some of us have reached out to one historical cause after another, to try to find a kind of meaning that would cut off this uncertainty and would release us from this which limits us at every turn. But the tragedy is that these beings in the world which promise us security, do not deliver the goods. And the reason why they do not deliver the goods, the certainty and the security that we desire as we flee from the uncertainties of life, is that they too pass away. My father now is up in his 80s. The smell of death is upon him, and one of these days he'll be no more. My nation was not always here. She'll not always be here. She too shall pass away. This cause which I serve was not always here. It will not always be here. The Methodist Church was not always here, and the Methodist Church will not always be here. The school that I work in was not always there. It will not always be there. The gods die, and when they die, we are back here in the midst of the uncertainties and insecurities that are given with human existence. The gods fail. We're living in a time in which these concepts, these beings, these realities, these causes, which sustained us as individuals and peoples, have collapsed. No more in our age do we look out at humanity at large and say that here's that for which I can live and that for which I can die. I suppose that this has been the great idol of modern man. But it's been given for us to see in our time by the events of history that man in himself is not of value, and that man, as the preacher in the Old Testament reminds us, like a cow, dies and is buried and returns to dust. The gods have failed us. Where are your causes today? Where are your causes today? With the death of the gods, we've been thrown back here into existence as we find it, with all of its contingencies, with all of its limitations. And in days like this, men are given this experience and this awareness that I think the Apostle Paul had when he saw not that this passes away, and that passes away, and this other passes away, but the vision that all things pass away, period. And then it is man stands face to face with that last final reality, who is the limiter of life itself. There one stands face to face with that power which had been striking at our existence from the very beginning, cutting off hopes, cutting off yearnings, cutting off reliances, and limiting us in love and fellowship and community. And when we see him in this context, the one who's there behind the death of all the gods that promised us security and failed to produce security, we see the one who is the destroyer of our gods. And now we're face to face with life in its nudity. And this last one is our great enemy. Then it is that we give him a name. We give him the name of fate. Sometimes we give him the name of the way things are. At times we give him the name of luck or chance. At times we give him the name of the evil one. We give him the name of Satan. And now And now we're at a crossroads. But there are several alternatives here. One alternative is to destroy this one. This is the annihilation of the last one. And the way we go about annihilating this one is through self-destruction. If I destroy myself, I've annihilated this last reality, I say in myself. And one way, of course, to do this is to take a 45 and put it up to your head and pull the trigger. And this is the answer that people give. Yes. But there are many, many other ways of destroying yourself, huh? One of the ways that you and I have found in our time is to escape from being a self in a mass, to lose ourselves in the crowd. Sometimes I get somewhat annoyed at a certain what I call pseudo-psychological approach to life in our time, in which you have experts raised up to help people to lose themselves in what they call community. To lose themselves in some kind of a mass, where they will not have to face who they are, nor stand before this last one, through which, if you like, they're able to annihilate the evil one by destroying themselves. Of course, there are other ways. Some of you have seen the man with the golden arm. A good needle in the skin. This is one way. A bottle of booze, of course, is another way. And this is a genuine possibility for us. But by destroying ourselves in dope and destroying ourselves in liquor, we annihilate this last reality that's there, whose face we see. Another way, of course, is to lose ourselves in work. We've got a strange thing happening in our world. I wonder how it will be looked upon in 100 or 200 years from now. Man after man in his 40s. At my age, and the age of some of you people here, man after man, keeling over of heart trouble. I suspect that what's behind this in many cases is the attempt to annihilate this last reality which shown his face in our times by losing themselves in work. I had an aunt, her name was Aunt Ida. She was a powerhouse in the Women's Society, in the Ladies' Aid Society, we called it in those days, a powerhouse. The church couldn't get along without her. But you know, when I look back on Aunt Ida, I think that Aunt Ida was somewhat of a prophet in that she saw the coming of that which later was hurled in the midst of, the collapse of the gods, where we faced once anew this final limitation upon all human existence. And Aunt Ida decided she'd annihilate this last one by simply losing herself in work. A great many women, that I know up around Dallas, I don't suppose this happens in Houston, can't sit still 2 minutes in their house. They've got this club and that club and the other club. What's behind this? I suspect that they have seen the face of this one which for them is fate, this one which is the devil, this one which is the evil one, this one which is the lack of certitude, this one who is insecurity. And they drown themselves in activity and drown themselves in work. And then there's another way we try to annihilate this last one by destroying ourselves, and that's to choose to become a psychotic. Now, there are all kinds of psychotics, of course, those of us that are gathered here tonight, and those finally who are in the back ward, that rot away as animals, in which we choose, when we've seen this last insecurity in life, to destroy, to annihilate him by destroying ourselves. We conjure up the dream world. We conjure up a little universe to suit ourselves which is not there, and shut ourselves off from communication from any source, and hence shut ourselves off from any threat. How many of us are still on this side of the bars, who have our nice little dream world by which we attempt to slay the final one that we're up against? But there's another crossroad here, not that of annihilation of the evil one, but that of appeasement of the evil one. You see him as a threat to your existence, and you want to hang on to some little hunk of life. And so either by becoming the very height of respectability or entering into some course similar to Baalism, we try to manipulate this last reality so that he'll be friendly toward us and at least allow us to hang on to the little bit that we may have left. This is the person who has seen this last reality, and then he lives the respectable life, the circumspect life. He figures that if he'll just watch where he puts down every foot and every toe, that some way or another this one out here will not be jarred in such a way that he'll thrust in and snatch out away from him what he may call peace of mind or peace of soul or peace of heart or piece of gizzard. Well, that book will be the next one. That one will be the next one. This is the man who never beats his wife. This is the man who never speaks sharply to his children. This is the man who's sitting on the front pew on Sunday morning at the church. Why? He dare not move 1 inch out of the way where something may take issue. This man is an honest man. He could be the teller of the bank, from now to doomsday, and there wouldn't be one single penny missing. There wouldn't dare to be a penny missing, for somebody would investigate. The circumspect man. And by being proper, yes, I think he wears gray suits, Yes, I think he does, And very likely something close to a black tie. I don't think, well, he'd probably covered up that bit of red. He would look as much like the next door neighbor as he possibly could. Now this is a type of Baalism, but then there's more of an overt Baalism here, in which you find certain rituals, certain rites, whereby you attempt to manipulate this last one into an attitude of friendliness that will ensure that some relationship that you have here in life, perhaps to your peace of mind, will remain untouched. You remember in the Old Testament how when people held certain values and they were afraid that they'd be threatened, that they conjured up certain magical rites to be sure that the powers that be would keep this secure. This is in our world today. I remember one day on the radio, as I was driving along in my car, hearing a certain minister say that he was out on the golf course, and he was hitting at the ball and just doing a lousy job, and he said to his partner, wait just a minute. And he went aside and had a little meditation over here. And then he came back and he took a swing at this ball, and guess what? Yeah. Or I remember a sign up in New York State, they wouldn't have anything around this like this. It says that if you want peace in our world, come to church. But here in the church, we've got a certain magical formula here that manipulates, this last threatening power in existence in such a way that he'll be kindly disposed to us and ensure this value out here. Or I saw another sign, in a village very close to this one outside, that the church has put up. It says, if you want peace of mind, come to church. That we've got some kind of a formula, that will ensure the favorable disposition of this last delimiter of human existence, so that you know, I've read some books in the last few years, in which certain churchmen have said to the psychoanalysts and the psychiatrists, that we can do all you're doing and a little bit more. As a matter of fact, we're better at this kind of business. Huh? I have a very close friend who's an older man now who has made a great deal of money writing books. And each book is a ladder. that if you'll perform this ladder, such and such will come about. If you climb up this ladder, such and such will come about. This is Baalism in its modern form. This is the religious form of appeasement of this last final reality. But you know, the one who wishes to slay this one by slaying himself, he is deceived. And the one who wishes to appease this one through any method whatsoever is deceived. Now, there's some other alternatives here. Another alternative is that of defiance. I'll defy this last reality. I'll defy this devil. I'll defy this one, he who brings insecurity into my existence. There are all kinds of defiance, of course. I suppose you might speak of a nihilistic defiance, an egoistic defiance, and you can point to certain characters in history who understand that this last reality that threatens every security and says no to every idolatry is there. But you stand, as it were, and bear yourself before him and say, I'll defy you. I'll create my world. I'll live in knowledge that you're there, and still exist. I suppose one might point to a Hitler and say, here is the defiant attitude. But as a matter of fact, this doesn't mean Adolf Hitler over in Germany. I suppose some of you men who were in the army, found that the American army brought out some Hitlers in us all, or a little bit of it, I remember some colonel in the outfit I was with, who before he went into the army, he was the custodian at the National Guard headquarters, up in a little town in New York State, and my, what the Major Leaf did to this man. And when it turned to silver, I was glad that this man was on our side. This is the kind of attitude that I found during the war at times with certain soldiers. I'm not making fun of this. I remember one time waking up in the early morning and saw a soldier in his foxhole, shaking his fist, not at the Japanese, but at this one here. Sheer defiance. They tell me that the Bromley sister's brother, shook his fist in the face of this last one and said, I will not die, as he died of tuberculosis. Of course, here you have also a humanitarian type of defiance. One of the most horrifying and wonderful tales I ever read was that of the Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor, was a man who looked at what I'm talking about squarely in the eyes and felt sorry for the rest of humanity that was caught in such a predicament. Such a humanitarian I've never seen. And decided that he'd take upon himself this last one and shoulder this insecurity and protect the rest of humanity from seeing it, that they might creep through life secure people. I suppose something like this makes the genuine humanitarian a hero in our eyes when he sees this and then he assumes responsibility for it for the rest of humanity. There's another type of defiance here that's in the form of an inversion. This is a person who sees this final insecurity in life and has attempted to stand up to it, and has failed, but's found a crutch to excuse his failure. This is the person who finally says, I would have stood there, but I didn't have as good a mind as my brother had. Or I would have stood there except I had a crippled leg. Or I would have stood there, if I hadn't had this underdeveloped child. Or I'd have stood there if I'd have just gotten this break. And when one comes to this person and says, I can straighten this crooked leg. He becomes horrified. The last thing in the world he'd want you to give him is a straight leg. This is his crutch. This is his crutch. I remember a woman in my congregation who had hidden behind the death of her 6-year-old son for 20 years. And I would have sworn that if I'd have had the power to bring that child back to life, she wouldn't have had it. You know, it's amazing the length that the insecurity in human existence can drive a man. There's another road here, and it's not a way out. It's the way of faith. But it's not as if you have 6 gods up here and 5 of them knocked over and you got 1 left, and this is the way out of your difficulty. Not this. Not this. A strange thing has happened in history. I want to repeat that. A strange thing has happened in history. I want to repeat that once again. A strange thing has happened in history. There has been called forth in history a community that bears the name of Christian. And this community has turned squarely before this one which has been named fate and chance and fortune and the evil one and the devil, and reached out and embraced it and said, God. I say there's a community come forth into history that has reached out to this last final reality, before whom man will always be insecure, and said, God. I say a strange word has been uttered in history, and a strange people have heard that word, and this people became who they are as they embraced this last one and said, Father. They tell the story of one who took this finitude of man upon himself up to the hilt, minus nothing, and said, God. They tell the story of one who was faced by death, the final threat to every existence. And while he hanged upon a cross, with a scream on his lips, crying of forsakenness, he said, My God, my God. They tell the story of this man in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was confronted the next day with this cross, who said, No, 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 and then uttered, Nevertheless. This is the strange community. And it's this community that has witnessed that when the gods had failed and annihilation had not worked and appeasement had collapsed and defiance had become a joke, that they were new beings. that they were new creatures. It is this community that witnessed that all things had become new for them. It's this community that witnessed that whereas once I was blind, now I see. Once I was lame, and now I'm whole. Once I had no being, and now I am. Once I was sick, and now I'm well. Once I was dead, and now I'm resurrected. And wherever this word has been preached, wherever this story has been remembered, something odd has happened. The first thing that's happened, that when this story has been proclaimed, men who have been hiding from God, men who have been running from God, men who have been defying God, have been pushed up against God, have been pushed up against the limits of human existence, have been pushed up against their finitude, have been pushed up against their creaturehood. And given an opportunity to say, Father, and given an opportunity to say, my God. Supposing tonight, just supposing tonight, that this strange word that's come in history, which says to us that this last one who is our enemy is indeed concerned for us. Supposing that this word has been here tonight. If it's been here tonight, two things have happened. You've been shoved up against the ultimate limitations of human existence. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, you've been brought to the place where you now can decide, right now, who you're going to be. Right now, who you're going to be. You know something? I don't know whether it's been here tonight or not. I just don't know. But you know. You know. And if you know, you're shoved up against the ultimate limits of human existence. And secondly, you're brought right now to the place where you can say, God, my Father, or turn around and flee some more. Now, if you choose to flee some more, God bless you. And if you're tired fleeing and have found your whale's belly, and say, Father, with this community, God bless you. I'm through.